Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Before we get into today's video, I just want to apologize for yesterday's video. It seems some technical issues happened with the video. It got deleted some reason. It's up again now, but yeah, I just want to apologize whoever saw it and commented. All that kind of disappeared. But in regards to today's story, I wanted to talk about a CBC broadcast that I saw over the weekend on Saturday. And it's something that I haven't heard much about until I looked a little bit further. And this was the story at hand.
Thanks for joining us. We'll have those stories in a moment. But first, a busy day of protests downtown Toronto as two major rallies filled the streets. We start with migrant workers, students, and refugees calling on the federal government to provide permanent resident status for undocumented people.
We're seeing these incredibly racist and exclusionary laws that are being put into place on migrants. Domestic workers aren't able to get permanent residence. International students are being shut out. They're being added with extra requirements, and migrants are being blamed for the affordability and housing crisis. And we're saying we are not to blame. We deserve equality, and the only way we will have equality is full and permanent resident status for all.
Similar rallies taking place across the country today, just ahead of the International Day for the Elimination of Discrimination. That's on March 21st. The federal government announced they're preparing a, quote, large program to regularize undocumented immigrants. Minister of Immigration Mark Miller told the Globe and Mail a plan is to be presented in the spring.
Now, I thought I must have been hearing this incorrectly, that they want to give undocumented individuals permanent residence, but after looking further into it, that actually is the case. As this article came out shortly after, Migrant Protests demands regularization and end of scapegoating. Now, that gentleman was saying a lot of the migrants are being blamed for housing and the jobs and economics and et cetera, et cetera. And as much as I wouldn't solely put it on that, that is a huge factor in regards to the housing crisis currently, because we're allowing 1.5 million immigrants or migrants into the country. We're allowing a lot of international students into the country, and we don't have the housing to sustain all of them or to house them all. As well as economically, we don't have enough jobs for all the individuals that are coming in, as there's been videos and clips like this where there's huge lineups just trying to get jobs via students or international students, even though I believe they need to have proof that they are sustainable here. They can buy their own food, yet we're hearing a lot of them going to food banks, and as I mentioned, videos like this.
Huge lineup of people looking for jobs at an LCBO warehouse in Ontario is going viral.
Now, to me, that looks like a certain demographic of people, and I can't fully say they're all immigrants or migrants, but I've never seen swaths of people like that trying so desperately to get jobs at a restaurant or LCBO, like in the many other clips that I came across. Now, as I mentioned when I looked a little further into this, there was another CTV media coverage on this story, and this is what they had to say.
We need status for all.
Protesters gathered downtown Vancouver demanding permanent resident status for all migrant workers, as well as changes to Canada's Care Worker program. At least 100 demonstrators showed their support Sunday afternoon, calling for the federal immigration ministry to change its policies, which they claim are currently unfair.
That will ensure that migrants have the access to the same rights that permanent residents and citizens currently have.
Omar Chu, one of the rally's organizers, says with the way things stand, a lot of migrant workers who are in Canada are falling through the cracks because there is no clear pathway for someone to apply for PR when their work permit has expired, forcing them to become undocumented. He says there should be an easier way to obtain PR, a process he calls regularization.
They need to be able to demand employment standards, to unionize, to be able to do all these things without fear of deportation and detention.
A caregiver in Vancouver shares that the program allowing her to work in Canada, the home child care provider pilot, will expire this June, causing her anxiety about her status.
It's been challenging because it's just like almost 5 years for waiting, looking for the right pathway to apply for PR. For me, in my status, I cannot apply for PR because I didn't meet the requirements for educational assessment.
Now, I just want to jump in here for a quick second. She flat out tells you that she does not qualify for permanent residence, even though she states that she's been waiting 5 years to find a correct path. Well, why are you waiting 5 years to find a pathway when you clearly just stated that you don't qualify due to education, etc., etc.? Wouldn't you try to work on getting the requirements that would allow you, like the proper education or the equivalent education? Maybe it's a course, maybe it's one semester, I don't know. But as this clip goes on, you're going to hear a consultant for immigrants say that it's basically not an immigration or migration problem, and that kid comes back again saying that we need a whole overhaul on our system to just allow the undocumented to be permanent residents.
Aline Metz is a regulated Canadian immigration consultant, and she says she has clients waiting years to get their PR. And she says Canada's immigration policy has many barriers, such as immigration caps, long wait times, and education and language requirements.
Some people are saying that maybe Canada has welcomed too many immigrants. However, those are people who are already here, and a lot of the times they're willing and able, and they want to do the jobs a lot of Canadians don't.
City News reached out to the office of Mark Miller, Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, but did not hear back in time for broadcast.
We really need a whole overhaul of our immigration system that starts with a regularization program for status for all.
Now, to be fair, I can't say I'm completely surprised by this because just a few months ago, we heard in the US, AOC stated this on The Daily Show saying we don't have an undocumented problem, we have a document problem. We should just document the undocumented.
One of the biggest issues that we have when it comes to immigration is the fact that we have an undocumented population. Mm-hmm. Now, you can fix that by trying to build a wall, or you can fix that by trying to document people and create a path to citizenship. Mm-hmm. We'll have folks that might say, look at these systems, that our shelter system has weight and things like that. But one of the reasons that our public systems experience weight is because people don't have a documented and reliable path to work and sustain themselves. Today are so difficult that they make our immigration process difficult. But that doesn't mean that immigrants do not create a positive contribution to our country and our economy and our society. And so the answer should really be we should make it easier to be legal, documented, and a citizen of the United States of America.
Now, the only thing I agree with her on that whole spiel is that immigrants and migrants can contribute to the country economically, societally, etc. I do agree with that. However, there has to be limits. I don't agree that we should just open borders, regardless if it's the US or Canada, just allow undocumented individuals to be documented just like that or gain permanent residence. Because, as I've stated, we don't have the workforce, we don't have the housing, and even a professor of economics from Waterloo stated in a recent post, Canada's GDP grew by 1.1 between the fourth quarter of 2022 and 2023, while its population grew by 3.2%. That means the GDP per capita is now falling at 2% annually, roughly the difference. Zero economic growth in more than 6 years, and that would be due to, I would say, immigration and migration and the population spike. And so you can't look at these two numbers and think that we're all hunky-dory. Now, it's also ludicrous to think that us as a nation should just change all of our rules for all these new people. Because it's not like as Canadians, I can go to India or I can go to Venezuela or I can go to Bangladesh or wherever the case may be and just say, you need to change the laws for me. I'm an immigrant here. I'm a migrant. You need to change the laws for me. No, it's called assimilation. You adapt to where you're at. And to me, assimilation is one of the biggest and important things in Canadian society because when you don't and you start bringing all your baggage from other areas, guess what? You have a rampant increase in crime. There was this story of the Sri Lankan family, 6 individuals that came from Sri Lanka. A Sri Lankan student also came, was living with them, and, deleted those 4 children, the mother, and a house guest there, and the father's the only survivor there. Tragic story. But then you have protests like this happening in the streets of Calgary.
I don't agree with this protest in the sense that they're standing on a country's flag, which is absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong.
Now, that video obviously paints a small sect of these individuals, these extremists, as you would call them. And I work with a lot of Sikhs, I work with a lot of Hindus, I work with a lot of Indian people who talked with the Sikhs, and they get along fine. So that's not everybody. But when we allow these types of groups who are recognized as terrorist groups in different areas, and we have the police protecting them or intervening in the sense of just trying to keep them away like that, when they're wielding knives, which those are ceremonial daggers according to them, and that's protected by Canadian law. But you also have blades on a stick poking out of the top of cars. Is that something that are allowed? As well as, are you allowed to be wielding that knife and cutting through flags like that on the street? I just don't understand. Yes, you have a right to protest, but this seems like an extreme version of it. And we're not only seeing this with this kind of thing, we're seeing it with the Palestinian and Israeli conflicts, and it's just across the country. Now we're seeing all these protests where it's like, we're in Canada, we should be dealing with Canadian issues. And you can obviously have your viewpoints and your feelings towards certain things, but let's focus on our Canadian issues. Stop sending money to the Ukraine, stop sending money to Israel and Gaza, and maybe focus on getting the country out of this hole that it's now found itself in and help our residents and better our communities. But again, this is just my opinion. Love to hear from you guys. Let me know what you think about all this craziness in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I appreciate everybody, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.